The last name's KJ through MON, and I am in Lafayette Hall along with Mr. Fernandez. Thanks for joining us today.
And Mr. Williams, are you at the computer right now? Do you want to introduce yourself since you're in here with us?
Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Williams, students DAO through GR. I'm at Madison Hall. I'm looking forward to today's presentation.
Perfect. All right, so we're here today for the pre-flight checklist, college planning for juniors. Essentially, what that means is how do we get prepared for college, right? All of you guys are now getting very close to the end of a somewhat crazy year, very different from usual, but nonetheless, senior year will come, and then after that, hopefully college, right? So even though it's been a bit of a weird year, we still need to move forward preparing for what is to come in the future anyways. So this will hopefully help you guys get prepared and help you guys get ready so that next year when the time comes to apply to schools, you guys are in a better spot and know what you're doing and have prepared a little bit. All right, so as the slide says, there are over 3,300 universities and colleges in the United States. That's a lot. 3,300 means that there is really a school that anybody can find for themselves, right? There is not necessarily one school that has to be the one school. I know a lot of times people think about the big name brand schools, Harvard, Stanford, in Virginia, the UVA, Virginia Tech. But with over 3,300 schools in the United States, that tells us that there are more than just those schools. So just keep that in mind as we're going through the process. You don't have to get hung up on those big name brand schools. It's also important to look at some of the smaller schools, maybe some of the schools that we've never heard of, because there will be things that those schools can offer for you that will be great for you, and which can make it this school for you. So the first thing to consider as you guys are starting to do your research and making your list of different schools is going to be location. What does that mean? As simple as, where is the school? The first thing for us is Virginia, right? We have a bunch of different schools in Virginia, and there's going to be an important conversation to have with your parents as you're going through the process. But where are you looking for your school to be? Are you looking for an in-state school in Virginia, for example? We're very fortunate that in Virginia we have several really good colleges and universities in our state. But that doesn't mean you have to stay within our state. You can easily go across the river to Maryland, go down south a little bit to North Carolina. Are you a student who is looking to get as far away as possible from home? You know, maybe go to the state of Washington, maybe go to California, which would be great, right? But when you are considering those aspects of going across the country to different schools, you also have to take into consideration the traveling back and forth, the keeping your supplies and your belongings stored over the summer. So that's going to be part of the conversation about location. Where do you want your school to be? Are you looking for somewhere that's cold, maybe up in the Northeast? Are you looking for somewhere that's warm, maybe a little bit further south? The other aspect of location is, are you looking for a school in the city? Are you looking for a school in the suburbs, like George Mason? Are you looking for a school that is the university campus and around it there is not much else around it, so in more of a rural area? These are all different types of aspects of location that will be important to keep in mind as you guys are looking for different schools. And that's going to be different from student to student in terms of what you are looking for yourself. While your best friend may like the big city schools, you may like something a bit more rural, a bit smaller. Size. Just like high schools in Fairfax County and across the state, colleges also come in different sizes. We're going to have schools that are very large, and we're going to have schools that are very small, and obviously right in the middle. Some of the bigger schools are schools that are like 40, 50, 60,000 students, which is, you know, for some of those bigger schools, they may offer different opportunities, but do you want to be a student in a school with 40, 50, 60,000 students? Some of the smaller schools are going to be schools that maybe have 1,000 students, maybe have 2,000 students, around the size of Hayfield High School. Do you want to be a student that is at a school where, there are 1,300 students, and you kind of, because of 1,300 students, you happen to know who everybody else is on campus? Are you looking for a school that's right in the middle? Something like the schools in Virginia, they're a bit more in the middle, 15, 20,000, 25,000, which isn't too large, but it isn't too small either, where everybody kind of knows who everybody is, right in the mix of the different population size. In addition to population size, there's also going to be the actual physical size of the campus. There are some schools that are going to be a bit smaller, and it's easier to walk across the campus, in a few minutes, 10, 20 minutes. There's going to be some campuses that are maybe a mile across campus, 2 miles across campus. That's also going to be something to consider as you guys are looking for different schools. What is the size of the school that I'm looking for in terms of population size and actual physical size of the campus? All right, academics. So it's always, easy to think about location. Oh, I want to go to Florida. I want to go to Kansas, maybe. I want to go to a school that's big. I want to go to a school small. But really, you guys are going to school, right? While the size and location is important to keep in mind, a big part of, maybe the most important part, is going to be the academics, because ultimately you're going to school to get an education, to then further yourself and possibly get a career in the future, and prepare yourself for the future. So as you guys are doing your research, it's going to be important to take the academics of that school into consideration. What does that mean? So we're looking at their programs that they're offering. We're looking at their majors. We're looking at their minors. If you're somebody who is looking to do a bit more like engineering, you're going to make sure that the school that you are doing research on is going to have an engineering program. Not every school is going to have every single program. Not every school is going to have an engineering program. Not every school is going to have a computer science program. So it's going to be important to look to make sure that what you are interested in studying is offered at that institution. Because otherwise, you're going to a school, you'll get there, you'll realize, oh wait, what I want to study is not here, and you'll have to transfer to somewhere else, which may end up causing you to lose credits along the transfer. Other aspect of academics is that some schools will offer, a lot of schools will offer 5-year degree master's programs, which means that you can go to school and finish college with your master's in 5 years. Not every school is going to have that for every program, but it is an added benefit that many schools do have, allowing you to finish college with a master's a bit quicker, as opposed to going to undergrad, graduating from college in 4 years, and then going to get your master's separately and spend another 2 years. Those 5-year master programs are great ways to save time and to save some finances as well. But again, not every school is going to offer that for every program, so it's going to be important to look into that as well. Other types of programs for academics, I know a lot of times students want to do something like pre-med, pre-law. Some schools have a bit more of a curriculum in line for students who want to do pre-med or pre-law. Some schools are going to say, you know what, kind of figure it out, you're on your own. Maybe study biology, maybe study history. So that's going to be important to look at as well. If you're somebody who's looking to be a doctor, who's looking to go into law school, making sure that the school that you're looking at has some kind of program could be a benefit, but again, it's not a requirement, which is another part of the academics, which will be important as you're going through. But ultimately, the main thing is going to be to make sure that the school that you're looking at and the schools that you are researching and going to be applying to will offer the academic program that you are interested in pursuing, so that you're not wasting time or money down the road. The next piece of the puzzle of finding the right fit is going to be cost. Unfortunately, college is super expensive, or can be really expensive, which I'm sure you guys know, have heard. So this is going to be a really important piece of the puzzle as you guys are doing your research. And it's going to be an important piece of the puzzle that will be not made, like this part of the conversation, this part of the piece will not be just a you guys piece. It will be a piece that will have to be in collaboration with your parents. So it's going to be important to have this conversation early on about what can we do for college? What can we afford for college? Am I looking for mom or dad? Am I looking for Am I looking for schools that are just in state so we can save a bit of finances? Am I able to go out of state? Do we have some money saved up? Are we going to be eligible for some kind of a grant? Just those different types of conversations are going to be important to have with your parents so that we can make sure that the schools that you're applying to will be schools that will allow you to not leave that institution with a great deal of debt. Because again, different schools are going to have different price points. So have that conversation early on. And I always tell students that it's an important piece because I don't want students to find their dream school, apply only to find out down the road that there's a school that they can't afford, which would be sad. So have that conversation early on with parents, with whoever is at home, about what are we looking at financially. Am I able to apply out of state? Am I about to stay in state? What else is going on with our finances that can help me with this process? Next, student life and activities. So just like in high school, obviously high school is academic, we're preparing you for college, and obviously college academic piece is helping you for your job down the road in your career. That isn't the only part of college that's going to be there. There are also going to be many clubs and activities, so it's important to look into the student life and the activities that each individual university college offer. Because while the academics is going to help you with your career, the student life activities is going to it's what's going to keep you there at that school, enjoying your time in college. So what does that mean? First, sports. They're kind of the big one that's always on TV, especially right now with March Madness. That sports piece. Are you looking for a school that has a big, thriving sports program, an NCAA program, with big football school, big basketball school? If that's something that's important to you, if so, then make sure that the schools that you're looking at are going to have those types of programs. Are you looking, if that's not necessarily important to you, a lot of schools do have club teams, which will allow students who maybe aren't quite at the level to play NCAA or, play for the school to still participate in sports and compete against other schools. So even lower from that, it's going to be intramural sports. So just kind of a bit more of a rec league, allowing you to still have fun and participate in sports with your friends. So that's going to be one part of the student life activities, the sports piece. Clubs and organizations. There's going to be, just as you get to college, you'll see that there's many, 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 many clubs and organizations that are available for students to join and participate in. Just like at Hayfield, we have a long list of different clubs and organizations. In colleges, a lot of times you'll find clubs and organizations that are very closely aligned with the ones that we have here at Hayfield, so that will allow you to kind of maybe seamlessly transition to a club like in college. But it's going to be important to find a club organization, again, like we tell you here in high school, to find one in college that will allow you to pursue your interests, meet people who are interested in the same things as you, and make some friends that way as well. You'll be able to find some different volunteer opportunities through those clubs and organizations as well. Another piece of the student life activities is, what is it like on campus overall, during the week? What is it like on campus over the weekend? Is it going to be a campus where most students live off campus, and so it's one with more of a commuter school? Or is it going to be a campus where a lot of students live on campus, so there's always people on campus for you to meet and be with? If it's a bit more of a commuter school, that means weekends may be a bit more empty, and so there may not be as many people on weekends. If it's a school that a lot of people live on campus, then the weekends may be a bit more lively. So that's another piece to consider as well in terms of the student life activities. The amenities as well. Is it a school? Look at the different amenities that they have, like their dining halls, their fitness facilities, the performing arts facilities, the type of concerts they may have. If they are bigger schools, sometimes they are able to draw some artists to come to those schools. All aspects of the college process for you to look at, right? The academics and then the student life and activities. And then the last piece of the finding the right fit will be the student body demographics. Just like if you're going out all throughout Fairfax County, every high school is going to have its own different type demographic. The student body can be made up a little bit differently from school to school. College is going to be the same thing. Are you looking for a school that is very diverse? then there'll be schools that are going to be more diverse than others. Are you looking for a school that is diversity not as big of a factor for you in making your decision? So that can be, if that's not a piece, then that may not be something that you'll necessarily look for as you're looking for different schools. Religion. There are some schools that are a bit more religiously focused. So if that's something that's important to you and you hold dear, that'll be important to look at as well. In the student body demographics, we also have the HBCUs, HSIs, and so those are going to be important to look at as well. So HBCUs are going to be historically Black colleges and universities. The HSIs are going to be the Hispanic serving institutions. And then the MSIs, which is a bit more of a newer term, is going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Ferguson, is that minority serving institution? I believe that's what it stands for, but.
That is correct. So
okay.
I have two screens and my mouse keeps being where I don't want it to be.
But those are going to be important aspects of the student body as well in terms of what you're looking for in the people who are attending that school. Maybe you're looking for a school that is a single-sex school, just all females. There are many still just all female colleges that are out there as well. If that's something that you're looking for, that's something to consider for while you're doing your research as well. Look at the LGBTQ plus community, kind of see what that's like, if that's important to you as well, as you're doing your research. So the student body demographics is very all-encompassing, and it's going to be important to find a student body that that you are going to feel comfortable in. Whatever that looks like is going to be different from student to student, but it will be important to look at their student body to see what the demographics are like and how you will fit in, how comfortable you'll be in that population. So all those slides before, we're going to be more so speaking about four-year universities and colleges. We are going to plug in NOVA as well, because that's also an important piece to the puzzle as well for many students. So NOVA, the biggest thing that we always say is the affordability, right? Just right there, if you look on the side, you can see just the differences between tuition across NOVA, GMU, and George Washington. So NOVA obviously is going to be the cheapest for the entire year. George Mason, which isn't even necessarily a terribly expensive school, you're going to see it's more than twice as much. And then George Washington University, which is in DC, you're going to see it's about 10 times as much as what NOVA costs. So one of the big pieces of NOVA is the affordability, and that's why it's going to be important to have that conversation with parents on the cost, because that is going to come into play. NOVA does have some smaller classes. They do have two types of degrees. So they have a degree that will allow you to transfer to a four-year university, generally the associate's degrees, and then they have career prep degrees. Those career prep degrees are going to be degrees that allow you to graduate and go right into your career, generally a bit more of the trade kind of careers, or just careers that need some certificates as opposed to four-year degrees. If you're pursuing a four-year degree and you get your associates there, the credits from NOVA are transferable to public and private universities throughout the state, throughout the country. You'll just have to kind of do your research in terms of what each individual university or college will accept from NOVA. But their credits are transferable because NOVA is a college still. The open admission to NOVA, so it's a fresh start. It's going to be just do your application online. You don't have to worry about, am I going to get accepted or am I not going to get accepted? You do your application, it allows you to have a fresh start. So maybe high school didn't go how you had hoped or you had planned. Going to NOVA will allow you to start off from scratch. You go there with essentially the 0 GPA, and after your first semester, whatever that GPA is your brand new GPA. Your high school GPA does not carry on. They have that guaranteed admissions to most Virginia universities. So it's an agreement they have with most public universities in Virginia, where if you meet the requirements for that public university while you're at NOVA, the class requirements and GPA requirements, then you will be automatically guaranteed admissions to the four-year university or college that you're trying to get into. So a lot of times, that's a good way to get to the university of your choice as well. If Virginia Tech is a school that you really want to go to, and maybe out of high school, your grades are not where they need to be, going to Nova for 2 years, getting that GPA that you need to get, and then taking the classes that you need to take at Nova will then allow you to seamlessly transfer to Virginia Tech. And then when you do transfer, when you graduate from Virginia Tech, nowhere on that diploma will it say Virginia Tech, oh, and by the way, they went to Nova. It'll just say Virginia Tech and nothing else. So that's one of the benefits of Nova. They still accept AP credits. So you're taking AP classes this year and next year. You do well on the AP exams, then those credits will still be offered. You'll still be able to earn credit through Nova, which will then be transferred to 4 universities. And then again, they have athletics. And I guess going in line with athletics, they do have student life and they have different activities as well. So they have clubs, they have organizations on campus. They have different sports that you can participate on campus. So Nova is like every other university where they do have things that you can do on campus and not just going to class and going home. If you want to participate on campus and get involved, you have the ability to do so at Nova like any other college. So having heard all the information, just kind of some things to think about of finding the right fit. When we're talking about finding the right fit and you kind of start trying to narrow down your list of different schools that you have or you're interested in, after doing all this research and hours in research, you start making that list. This is how this is what we would recommend in terms of how to make that list for you. So we generally break it up into 3 categories. We have the likely schools, we have the target schools, and then we have the reach schools. So the likely schools generally going to be the schools, I guess people call it the safety schools, but it's going to be generally where the average of the admitted students, so like their test scores, their GPA, you generally exceed those test scores, those GPA. So again, so generally people call it a safety school, we'll call it a likely school. The other part of the list that we talked about will be the target schools. The target schools are going to be right where you fall right in that middle of the average, right? So maybe your GPA and your test scores are right in line with the average GPA and test scores of the students who got accepted to that school. So it's going to be kind of right in the middle. There's a good chance you can get in, but there's also a chance that you may not get in. It really just depends on each individual year and what the schools are looking for. And then last, we have the reach schools. Those reach schools are going to be for students who admitted profile generally exceeds what you have. So generally the GPA, the test scores, et cetera, all of those are going to be generally higher than what you are able to, what you're bringing, which is fine. You know, it doesn't mean don't apply. It means knowing that your test scores and GPA are a little bit lower than those other people who generally got accepted. The reach schools are also going to be schools for whose applicant pool greatly exceeds numbers of available spots. What that means is like the Stanfords, like the Harvards, right? Maybe you have awesome test scores, awesome GPAs, but those schools draw many applicants every year, and they only have a few amount of spots. So even for schools like that, where you may be right in line with their average accepted GPA and test scores, but doesn't mean it can be a target. Those schools are still going to be reach schools because they don't have that many slots available for their new class. So this will be our list of your schools that you should be looking at. The likely, target, and reach can be important to have schools in each one of those categories to have a well-rounded list of schools as you're applying. And then how do you find out where you are, right? So one part of it is on the website. They'll have generally the schools will list their average GPA, their average test scores, which is a great tool to use. A great tool that we are able to offer you guys in Fairfax County and you guys have access to is through Naviance Student and using scattergrams. Mrs. Ferguson later on will show you how to access this and kind of have a bit more of an in-depth view of the scattergram. But the scattergram is a tool that I often use with my students. When a student, hey, Mr. Fernandez, what's my chance of getting into this school? I pull this up. So what you see on this screen is a big graph. On the y-axis, you're going to have your GPA. On the x-axis, you're going to have your SAT score. Where the dotted lines meet up is going to be the average, right? So where those two dotted lines meet up is going to be the average. All those little green dots all the little blue dots and all the little red X's, all those represent students from Hayfield over the last 3 years who have applied to this particular university. So all the greens are going to be students who from Hayfield from the last 3 graduating classes who have applied to the school and have gotten accepted. All the blue dots are going to be those students who have applied and gotten waitlisted, and all the red X's are going to be students who have applied and have gotten denied. This allows you to then see how you fall in line with students from Hayfield specifically for each individual particular university. You will fall somewhere in line here. Somewhere on this chart, you'll kind of fall in line. I know this year may be a little bit different with the lack of SAT scores, but you will fall somewhere in here, and it kind of gives you just an idea of where you fall in line with previous Hayfield students and your ability to get into, be accepted to different schools throughout the United States. So this would be a great tool that I always recommend students use, and I often pull it up with students myself. And Ms. Ferguson will definitely go through more of a Naviance Student practice later on, so that you guys can take a look to see how to find that. And then the last, just a slide on how to do the research. Naviance Student, again, Ms. Ferguson will go over that. But we also have College Navigator and College Board Big Future. The College Navigator is a tool that, and Big Future are both tools that are from different organizations that are available to you. The College Navigator is put together by the National Center for Education Statistics, and Big Future is put together by College Board, that same company that does the AP testing and SAT. So they're going to be great ways for you to do your research and kind of start making your list. Another way to do research is going to be to take those virtual campus tours, or take in-person tours of the school they're offering them. Go on to college fairs, whether they're virtual or in person, because that's how you're going to be able to get some different information from different admissions representatives or see what the campus is like as well. So it's going to be important to do your research, whether it is through the website, through these three websites, or the virtual campus tours, college fairs.
All right. So thank you for that, Mr. Fernandez. I think the next thing we're talking about here is, now that you've considered all these things, you've started doing the research, you've talked to your family and your support system about all of your options, it's time to start applying. So I'm first going to go over the types of applications, and these are listed in order of when their deadlines start to pop up on the calendar. So early action and early decision, the vast majority of those are going to start to pop up as soon as November 1st. Some also in mid-October, but the majority of those early action, early decision are going to start to have deadlines around November 1st. Early action is a non-binding application, meaning you apply early and you'll also hear back earlier than a regular decision applicant. Non-binding meaning you can apply and you're expressing, hey, I'm very interested and I'm sending a transcript and all of my information, and if you tell me earlier, that means there's a chance I would commit. Early decision is binding, meaning I'm applying to you by November 1st or whenever the deadline might be, and if you accept me, no questions asked, I am coming. I am committing to your school. I will be sending my deposit, and I will be coming in the fall of 2022. Right? The big thing with early decision is you can only send one. You can only apply to one school early decision, and on that same end, when your counselor sends your transcript, we can only submit one early decision transcript. The reason for that being is it's just a huge kind of ethical conflict if you're telling multiple schools, hey, if you accept me, I am coming, because you can only go to one college at the end of the day once you finish high school. We do want you to do your research and set yourself up to have the power to choose schools based on a well-built plan, but you can only attend one school after you graduate high school. Moving forward to regular decision, again, the deadline is going to depend on the school, but our general regular decision deadlines tend to be toward the end of the calendar year, January 1st, January 15th, that kind of thing. And then rolling means we're going to open up our application window. Sometimes that's as soon as August 1st or September. And as you apply, we're going to take the 2 to 3 to 4 weeks to process your information and send you back a decision. and rolling will go until all their seats are filled. So some schools will do rolling, you know, even into now, February, March, April, May. But if you know for sure, West Virginia is a big rolling admissions school. If you know for sure you really want to go to West Virginia, while there is no hard deadline, we encourage go ahead and apply earlier. That way it can be done. You can get in line to be considered sooner. The nice piece there is you'll also hear back a little bit sooner and can hopefully, you know, adjust your plans accordingly based on that decision.
And I'll add one more thing about early action and early decision. This is Mrs. Ferguson, and that is that there are some colleges who admit a very large percentage of their freshman class through early action and early decision, meaning that there aren't a whole lot of spots left in the class by the time you roll around to regular decision. Virginia Tech is one of those. Christopher Newport is one of those. So as you're doing your college research, it's also a good idea to ask that question, whether or not you should apply, say, the non-binding early action, because it is easier to get in at that point because regular decision is only for, you know, whether or not they have any spots left in the class after early action, early decision. So that's another piece to keep in mind and ask colleges as you're doing your research.
Absolutely. I think the non-binding piece does give you some flexibility there. You do have to get to work a little bit sooner, though. I do know some students, particularly this year, were saying, oh, I'm stressed, I'm just going to do regular. But if you do have a strong transcript, if that is a school of good fit and you are really interested, looking at something like early action generally would be to your advantage in that it gives you a little more flexibility and gets your materials to that college to consider you for admissions a little sooner. Now, where do we find these applications? Often directly on the website through their admissions page. There's also a number of portals, which we've listed here. You may have heard of Common App and Coalition application. There's also a Common Black College application. You can go through and create accounts with all of these portals now, but generally those applications are not available until August 1st. Now, with these portals, one of the nice details is you can enter your information all into the Common App one time. So your name, your address, your birthday, all that information that you generally know about yourself already. From there, if there are multiple schools on the Common App, you can then say, okay, I'm applying to these 5 schools, or whatever your number is. Please send out that information to those schools. And then there are individual university components within that application where, you know, certain schools are going to need certain pieces of information. The big thing there, while Common App, while Coalition, while the Common Black College application, all of these portals are great tools and they have a lot of that information. We still recommend, if you're applying to Virginia Tech or you're applying to George Mason or somewhere via the Common App, in addition to doing the Common App, do consult their website directly for all of their information for their students who are prospective students. That way you know all of the details, all the expectations. You don't miss some of those school-specific things that if you're just cruising through Common App, you may miss something important. Go ahead and do both, but the Common application, all these portals that you see, they can be nice tools to help keep everything organized. And it is something to consider. Next slide here. So parts of your application, as I mentioned, there is the personal information, your name and your address and all of that stuff. There's the transcript, which you would then request through Hayfield High School. That is sent from your counselor directly to the institution. That's part of what makes the transcript official, is there has not been student or parent or any interference between anybody. It's going directly from Hayfield to Christopher Newport to University of Southern California, wherever you might be applying. Test scores, if they're needed, are also part of that application. You would request that through College Board or through ACT Student. That being said, it'll be mentioned over and over again, we're in a unique time. Please check to see if your schools are test optional. You may not need to stress about a test if it's not going to be required as part of that application. In addition, your essay is part of the application. If they're needed, you'll also submit recommendation letters. That generally will come from the counselor and a teacher or two. If you qualify, there's also the fee waiver. And if you don't qualify for the fee waiver, you do pay the application fee. Some universities will also hold an interview as part of their admissions process. That'll depend on the school. And depending on the major, maybe you're a music performance major or you want to be a photography major, you're going to submit a portfolio of your work or audition. Because yes, they're looking at your academics and your transcript and all the work you've done in high school, but particularly in those more creative majors, where if you're going to be a trumpet major, they're going to want you to audition. They're going to want to hear about your skills as a musician in addition to grades in your coursework. Looking at the transcript, what that is going to include are your junior year grades. That's going to be your final set of grades that you see on the official transcript when we send that out. It's also going to include your senior year courses. So no grades are included from senior year until after the first semester. So that initial transcript, if you're applying generally regular decision or earlier, that's just going to include those final grades through junior year as well as your senior year courses. Fairfax County Public Schools does not rank, so that is not something we don't have that information. We don't share that with universities. So some colleges are going to ask for ranking, and there's often an option just to say my school or school system does not rank. So Fairfax County, Hayfield High School, we do not rank. Some colleges will also ask that you self-report high school grades. What that means is you're going to type in 9th grade, I took English 9, World History 1, Biology, and I got these grades. In 10th grade, same thing. 11th grade, same thing. And in 12th grade, I'm taking these classes. If you're self-reporting, they may not require a transcript right away, but they then later on, once you're offered admission, will request to have you send a transcript from Hayfield to that school to verify what you self-reported is indeed correct. So obviously that's on the honor system, at least at the beginning. Obviously, if you're then offered admission, the best thing to do there is tell the truth, because they will find out the truth at some point. So yeah, you'll self-report, and then we would verify once you pay your deposit and say, hey, I'm going. We then send the official transcript there. The Hayfield transcript process, how to request that, is going to be reviewed with you all in early September. That is something you're going to hear plenty about. We're currently working with our current seniors on finalizing admissions data and getting set for them to graduate. So we'll get to you all kind of first thing in the fall, and that information is coming, so stay tuned. As far as test scores, I mentioned this earlier. The first thing you want to do as we're in the midst of this pandemic is check to see if your school is test optional. If you need to test or want to test, it's certainly something you can do, but particularly from a safety standpoint and all of that, unless it's an absolute necessity, we do want you all to prioritize, your own health and well-being and safety. And if it's something you don't need to stress over at this time, we recommend you do lean on that test optional piece. If the test scores are needed, you're going to request that those scores are sent directly from the testing agency. So that could be College Board for the SAT, the ACT student portal for the ACT. Those will go directly from College Board or from the ACT company to the university, okay? Hayfield does not send or report test scores to colleges and universities, so that's a separate piece that you would need to handle. One thing we strongly encourage is that you allow plenty of time to order those test scores, as it does take several weeks for colleges to receive them, because you and all of your peers who are seniors are applying to colleges. So are students all over the country, and all your SAT stuff is coming from one company, from College Board, right? So there is a processing time, both to get the scores out and to the schools, and then those colleges and universities also need time to receive the scores, sort them out, pair them with your application. So if you have a November 1 deadline, you should not be requesting something on October 31st. It's too late. So you do want to think about submitting that request, 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even a month ahead of that deadline, just to be sure your materials all arrive on time. Beyond that, most colleges will super score the SAT, and what that means is they'll take if you have multiple test attempts, they'll take the best version of your math and the best version of your critical reading, and pair that to super score it to give you the best chance at shining brighter. Talking about our essay, some schools will require one or more essays, and you can look through Common App right now. If you're making that account and getting started, you can look to see what those essay prompts are for next year. Start doing some research, planning, and thinking. I think the biggest thing with the essay is, yes, you have a GPA. Yes, you may have a test score in the form of an SAT or ACT. The essay is a chance to showcase who you are beyond a number, right? Your GPA, test scores, those are important, but they aren't everything. So the essay is a chance to inject who you are and your personality and your experience into your application, which is important. The biggest thing there is make sure in that limited space, they might say we want 1 page or we want 500 words. Make sure you're answering the question, okay? It should be written in your voice, so it's great to have, you know, a parent or a peer review the essay, but if you continue to ask other people what they think, eventually, if you're trying to make everybody happy and utilize all their feedback, you wind up with an essay that doesn't quite sound like you. So use your student voice, review and revise. One thing we strongly recommend at Hayfield is use the Hawk Writing Center, because they have peer tutors, they have people who specialize in getting you the right kinds of support. So if you are in your family and doing this for the first time, and maybe your parents have never written a college essay, the Writing Center is a great place to go. It's also free and during the school day, so you can pop in and get some support there. Our next slide. Recommendation letters. What you'll want to do as you're planning is see of the colleges you're applying to, what types of letters do they need and how many are required. Colleges will start to request letters from counselors and teachers, and you'll connect your counselor via that application portal. You'll invite them, you'll invite teachers through that portal or directly from the website, depending on how you apply. Generally speaking, we're able to do all of that electronically. And counselor letters, if you need them, are sent along with the transcript, so it's done all in one package. One big thing with letters of recommendation is if a school requires 2 or 1 or none, if you're looking for 2, you know, 1 is a teacher and 1 is a counselor. If that's what they ask for, that's what they want to see. They don't necessarily want your 1 counselor letter and then 3, 4, 5 teacher recommendation letters. Generally, they're going to read the first, you know, if they want 2 letters, they're going to read the first 2, and that's going to be it. So you don't need to stress yourself out and oversubmit information, right? You are all top students and you're all qualified and lovely and destined to do great things, but we don't want to overburden people with information because typically they will just discard it. So the stress of getting all that organized, communicating with teachers, we don't want to waste your time and your limited energy and efforts. So make sure you're sticking to what colleges are actually looking for. Okay. If you are requesting a counselor letter recommendation, you'll need to fill out our student information form. That's going to be available to you all prior to the summer. So it's coming in June 2021. If you're doing some Googling or you're talking to your senior peers right now, the student information form is currently linked to the class of 2021. We're not ready for your stuff yet. We're looking forward to it. We're just not there. So keep that in mind as you get closer to summer. That's going to be made available to you all to start working on that student information packet to provide counselors with all the information they need to write you the best letter of recommendation they can. Teachers, I may have mentioned this a little bit already, will be submitting recommendation letters electronically. What you'll need to do with those portals is invite them as a recommender. We want you all to have those conversations with your teachers to say, you know, hey, Miss VK, or hey, Mr. Fernandez, if you're writing me a letter of recommendation, you know, I'd like you to, is that okay? Don't just invite them on the application, because then they get an automatic email that says, you know, Michael Matthews has invited you to write a letter of recommendation. And that teacher might say, oh, okay, I didn't know this was coming. I don't know what to do. So definitely make that connection, iron out the details, have the conversation, be gracious, you know, give them advance notice. Yeah, Ms. Ferguson is completing my sentences here. Teachers and counselors need 4 weeks notice to get something done ahead of your deadline to make sure everything gets out on time. The big thing there is Counselors are writing you letters of rec, of course, once you do the information form, but teachers, if they're doing that, they're doing you a huge favor. They're taking time out of their day in addition to teaching classes and doing all the things they do to support you. And teachers do enjoy doing that and want to do that, but they also need to keep themselves organized and make sure they are able to write you a letter of quality. So that kind of stuff is set up and comes with conversations in advance, giving them plenty of time to plan and get organized to support you as best they can. If you're talking to somebody, again, on October 28th and they need things turned in by November 1st, somebody might be able to write you something and put something together, but it's not going to be of the highest quality that you deserve. And you do want to consider that the people who read these letters, the admissions folks on the college side, are reading, hundreds of letters a day. So they can separate a quality letter of recommendation from a hastily written letter of recommendation. Even if both are written with good intentions, you want to give your support team, your counselor, your teachers, plenty of time to give you recommendations that are of the high quality that you deserve. And lastly, as we're talking about this whole process, this is just a reminder of how your counselors can help you. As we've talked about, they're going to be writing you letters of recommendation. We're also here to help you plan, so to give you information about testing. And Ms. Ferguson's going to show you how to use Naviance Student, but that's something we can sit down one-on-one and help students explore. Reviewing scattergrams, like Mr. Fernandez talked about. We are often the liaison or the bridge between students and colleges. So as you're applying, if you had a question or if something was incomplete or incorrect with your application and you needed something fixed, counselors will often call those schools directly and work in support of their student to make sure we can problem solve and get things done. We're going to help you have discussions about colleges of best fit, right? Help you explore options and establish a list of schools that ideally set you up to make a choice, right? Where you're getting into multiple schools and potentially getting varying financial aid packages, and then setting yourself up to choose which school you go to, rather than I'm going to apply to Harvard and Yale and Stanford, and then George Mason will be my safety school. George Mason is a great school, but if that's the only one you had a chance of getting into, it feels different getting to go to George Mason, choosing to go to George Mason, rather than quote unquote having to go to George Mason because you set yourself up. You only had the one school. We want you guys to plan appropriately, find a mix of reach and colleges of best fit. That way you can make a choice. Helping with the entire Hayfield application process. So when in doubt, any questions about college stuff, your counselor is going to help you. Assistance in contacting colleges, as well as procuring those fee waivers for college applications, should you qualify. So definitely, when in doubt, ask your counselor. And if we aren't the person to help you in that situation as best we can, we'll connect you with the adult who can. Thank you.
And hello, this is Mrs. Ferguson. So I'm going to take over with how the College and Career Center can help you. Resources, resources, resources. Everything that you need as far as careers, colleges, scholarships, financial aid, testing, military, part-time jobs now, summer programs, all of that stuff is in the Career and College Center. So I'm going to show you in a few minutes how to use Naviance Student. In the fall, I will host college visits. Not sure what those are going to look like this fall. This past fall, of course, hopefully some of you all attended, but we did host them online virtually on Mondays and some after school. Not sure what the travel schedule will look like for college admissions offices next year, but we will be hosting college visits in some form or fashion. Colleges also usually email me about events that they have going on, whether it be open houses or information sessions that they're going to do in the DC metro area. So those are things that I'll make sure I'm letting you know about. In the fall, also in October, Fairfax County hosts 2 college fairs, one at Fair Oaks Mall and another, of course, right here at Hayfield High School. So those will be happening in October. Again, not very sure at this point in March what October will look like as far as those special events, whether or not those will be online or in person. There are college fairs that are happening now virtually. Hopefully you're reading my newsletters where I'm keeping you informed of all of those opportunities. I'll show you in a moment how to make sure that you're looking for those. In addition to your counselors, I can also help you with questions about applications or getting in touch with colleges, or you have a specific question maybe that I can't answer. We can easily send an email to the admissions person at that college and get an answer for you. I also have information about financial aid and scholarships. I'll show you in a slide or two how you can find out more about financial aid, since that can be its whole hour-long program by itself. I'll show you where you can find that information. If you are applying to colleges that do need an SAT or an ACT, you can get a fee waiver from the College and Career Center if you are currently receiving free or reduced lunch. That will allow you to take both the SAT and the ACT for free. Again, a lot of colleges, over 50% of them right now, are test optional. I expect that to continue. So you may find that you may not even need to take one, but if you do and you're on free or reduced lunch, please talk to me, send me an email, and I'm happy to help. And lastly, hopefully you all are reading the weekly newsletter that I send to your FCPS email address. I do copy your parents, so if they have an FCPS SIS account, then they are also getting a copy of the weekly newsletter that I'm sending. If they don't, they can create a Parent SIS account and start getting it, or you can do your parents a favor and you are welcome to forward that email to them directly. And I'll show you what those look like in case you haven't seen those come through your email. This is what they look like. So every week, I'll send you a list of the special events that are happening that week. Of course, today we are in our junior event. In 4 minutes, our visit with the Coast Guard recruiter will start, and then we've got some other things coming up. There is a college fair next Monday. If you identify as a member of the LGBTQ+ community, there is a virtual college fair specifically for you, and information about that is in the newsletter that I sent you. This week it actually went out on Saturday because I ran out of time on Friday. But if you look in your email from Saturday, you can see the entire newsletter. It's about 5 pages full of goodies. So check it out every week, and that will be the best way for me to communicate to you all of the opportunities that are out there. And it's not just college stuff. There is career stuff, military stuff, summer programs, financial aid, scholarships. It's all in there. What can you be doing right now? I know a lot of you are already starting to think about what you need to do and sort of wrap your head around this process that's looming in the fall. So here right now in the spring, you can start attending college fairs and events. That's where you can check my newsletter for those events. And come up with a list of schools that you like and why you like them. Remember, we're looking to have some in each of those categories of likelies, matches, and reaches. We don't want a list that's all reaches, and we don't want a list that's all likelies. It's nice to have a good mix in there. In late spring, so towards the end of the school year, what we're going to do is ask you to sort of put together a list of schools for yourself in your head. You're welcome to share them with your counselor if you want to, or with me if you want some input on what your list looks like and what you might want to consider. You'll want to figure out whether or not you need to take SATs or ACTs. There is an SAT in May. There are an ACT and an SAT in June. And there's an ACT in July. And then there's an SAT in August. So there are lots of chances coming up. I'm encouraging juniors to wait until May, June timeframe, because by then we should know what most colleges are planning on for class of 2022. A great place that provides centralized information is www.fairtest.org. They are sort of a one-stop shop for looking to see who's on that list. And then, of course, you want to double check by going to that college's website to make sure that there aren't any special considerations. For instance, they might say, we're test optional for admission. However, if you want to be in our honors program, then you must submit test scores. Or they might say, we're test optional for admission, but if you want scholarships, you need to submit a test. And some colleges will say, we don't need the test for anything. So that's something that you'll want to do your research on and make sure that you have a clear understanding of that from the very beginning. And then, of course, in normal times, right, most of you all probably would have spent next week's spring break going around and visiting colleges and doing tours. There are certainly colleges and universities who are doing some in-person tours, usually at a much smaller level than what they were doing. All of them have beefed up their virtual tours online and their virtual open houses and programs. So I encourage you to go to the websites of the colleges that you're interested in. There should be a section that talks about visits, and it should tell you what all of the different visit options are. Also, we were talking about financial aid a little bit. This is the time to start doing some research about what the financial aid process looks like. And this is also the time to have one of those grown-up conversations with your parents about what are the resources that we have available for college, what can you afford to contribute, what are you wanting me to contribute, and kind of get an idea from your parents about what that looks like. There is also a tool on every college's website. If you go to any college and you type in these 3 words, net price calculator, it will help you do a very basic form, and it will give you an idea of what you might pay for 1 year to attend that school. So as you are starting to look around, that net price calculator can be helpful in determining a general idea of what it might cost you. Summertime, this is when you might want to start drafting your first round of essays and working on your resume. There is a resume builder in Naviance if you want to use that, or you can go online and you can Google college resume and you will come up with a million templates that you're welcome to use as well. And then this fall is when you will actually do your formal requests for letters of recommendation. Certainly if you want to talk to a teacher this spring and say, Mrs. VK, I would really love for you to write a letter of recommendation in the fall. Do you think you might be able to do that? So that way they kind of know to be expecting that request in the fall. So it's not a bad idea to make those requests now. Some teachers are very popular and they could get 30 or 40 or 50 requests for letters. So the earlier you sort of get on their schedule, the better, because they may get to a point where they're overwhelmed and they say, I'm really sorry, but I don't have enough time to write anymore. So start thinking about maybe doing that this summer or this spring, but the actual request will come in the fall. And then the last thing is, of course, for your counselor recommendation. We talked about this earlier. The counselors will send you a student information form. That's a Google form that we'll share with you in June. It will ask you questions about what sorts of things are you interested in studying in college? What do you think your strengths and weaknesses are? All kinds of different things about yourself to help them craft the counselor letter of recommendation. Financial aid resources. So we talked about this a little bit. One of the best resources, you guys are so lucky to be in Fairfax County because there is an organization called College Access Fairfax. And their job is to help Fairfax County Public Schools students pay for college. And they do that in a variety of ways. Number one, they offer a lot of workshops and special events where you can learn more about the financial aid and the scholarship process. You'll notice this is just a screenshot of their website, but they are offering a Paying for College workshop on April the 13th. It is going to be in both English and in Spanish, so it is open to our Spanish-speaking families as well. Also, if you go to their website, like I said, this is a screenshot, so it's not going to actually work, but if you go to resources, it will bring you to a page with all kinds of information, including a video recording of their Paying for College program that they did last fall. And there's also a video recording of their scholarship workshop. Those would both be great ones to watch either over break or over the summer so that you have an idea of what the financial aid process is going to look like. You will not be able to apply for financial aid from the U.S. government in the state of Virginia until October 1st of your senior year. So you do not need to worry about applying for financial aid right now. There are some scholarships that are out there for juniors. When we get to the Naviance section, I'll show you how to use Naviance. And I'll show you where that scholarship list is. The last thing that College Access Fairfax offers us, which is another wonderful option, is that they provide a special person called a financial aid champion. And her job is to help you fill out financial aid forms. And she does it all for free. Again, I don't know what that's going to look like in the fall. Before COVID existed, she would hang out in my room during SOAR time. And she was there to sit down one-on-one and help students fill out financial aid forms. Right now, she's doing it all through Zoom. And so I'm not sure what next year is going to look like, but she will be available to help you through those financial aid applications. So you are not alone. You have me and you have her. And then the last thing before we get on into Naviance is to make sure that you all know about our special presentation that is going to happen on April 15th at 6:30 p.m. I am going to drop the link into the chat right now. So our evening program, we are going to have admissions professionals from University of Delaware, Virginia Tech, Nova, University of Maryland at Eastern Shore, and the University of Mary Washington. And they are going to give you tips and tricks on when they read an application, what are they looking for? Do they want to see this or do they want to see that? What should you be looking for when you go on a campus tour? All that kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that they're going to give you advice about on April 15th at 6:30. It is an event on Zoom. It is not in Blackboard Collaborate, which means that you need to pre-register now. So I put the link in the chat. Excuse me, if you want to click on it to register. Remember that when you register, do not use your fcpsschools.net email address because they cannot send you a meeting link to an fcpsschools.net email address because Zoom is not part of Fairfax County. So make sure that you use your Hotmail, your Gmail, whatever, in order to register for that event. You only need one registration for your whole family, so you don't need to register and then have your parents register for a different link. It's all one because we do have some attendance limits with Zoom. We are co-hosting with another school as well. So I hope that you all will join us for that. And then also make sure that you know, we've talked a lot about talking to me in the Career Center or talking to your counselor. We do have drop-in office hours where we hang out in Blackboard Collaborate and are able to talk to students and help them out with whatever they need. We are available on Mondays from 10:30 to 11:30, and then on Tuesdays during lunch from 11:30 to 1. You get to us in Schoology almost exactly like you got to this program today, only instead of clicking on the junior meeting, you would click on either Mrs. Ferguson if you want to come see me in the College Career Center, or you would click on the sub-schools and that will get you into your counselor in the sub-school. So we would love to see you. And lastly, I am going to show you all a few things about Naviance Student. I know we're running long, so it's going to be really quick, but I want to make sure that everybody knows just a quick tour around. And then we'll take questions. So if you all are starting to think of some questions, you are welcome to drop them in the chat. And our counselors can answer them in the chat while I'm showing you all Naviance. So to get to Naviance, you type in fcps.edu/Naviance. Once you're there, you would scroll down and click on Student Naviance Login, and that gets you in. Your login and password are the exact same thing that you use when you log into any other FCPS account. So it's the same thing. Once you log in, it looks like this. And while I can't show you everything today, I'll show you that there is a colleges section here. Find Your Fit allows you to do some college searches. So for instance, if you're looking for a college that has criminal justice and a Division II women's soccer team and Army ROTC and is somewhere in the Midwest, you can put all those criteria in and it will tell you here are the colleges that meet those criteria. So that those college matches can be very helpful. The scattergrams, those are the things that Mr. Matthews was looking at earlier. And I think that Naviance, I was out of Naviance for so long earlier that it's kicked me out. So let me get back in here. This is what it looks like for me when I log in. It's a little different for you guys. This demo account was being a little weird earlier, so hopefully it will behave itself. Or perhaps not. All right, let's do my backup plan. All right, sorry about that, you guys. All right, let's try again. And it looks like it is still going to be crabby for you. So I will have to tell you that what we will do is that we will, I do have some slideshows or some videos on my YouTube channel. I'll put my YouTube channel down in the comments so that you can check it out when you have time. I do have some Naviance videos in there that you are welcome to check out. We are also going to be posting the handout that we used today. I'll pop that in the chat real quick for you. This is today's handout. We will put the handout, the PowerPoint, and the recording of today's program in Schoology for you all. In fact, I'll show you where that would be. Let me do that. I'll show you. So in Schoology, if you are in courses and you go to all students, if you scroll down, the class of 2022, you'll see here's the junior program from March 22nd. You didn't even know it was already there, but the PowerPoint that we did today is there. The handout is here. Here's the Zoom link or the RSVP link to get the Zoom link for our April 15th program. And after I hit stop record, I will be able to put our link to the recording of this program as well. So all of those are in Schoology. And at this point, the counselors and I are happy to take questions. So go ahead and pop questions in the chat if you have any. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.